So these will be some frequently asked questions that we're getting at the help desk that possibly families or students, we're going to give some tips that you might be able to do from home on your machine to help out. So Jason, go ahead.
Okay, so one of the common issues that we are seeing is that iPads are not signed in to Zscaler, which is our web filtering service, and it causes a lot of problems with not being able to access websites and content. To check to see if you're signed into Zscaler, first thing I want you to do is press the home button a couple of times, which is the circle button at the bottom of the iPad, until you just get to the screen that looks like your desktop with all your icons. At the very bottom, there's an icon that is a blue circle with a white and red needle, looks like a compass. If you'll tap on that, that will launch Safari. At the very top of the screen where it says search or enter website name, tap in that box and a keyboard will pop up. And I want you to type in Ford.com, that's Ford.com. And there's nothing special about that website, it's just an easy one that we can use to test to see if it will go there or if we need to sign in order to gain access. So after you typed in Ford.com, click the Go button. And if you were signed into Zscaler already, the Ford website would have loaded. This iPad, as you see, is not signed into Zscaler. So we want to click in the box right below where it says username. It says enter your username. And the username that needs to be entered is the student's UID number at k12bcs.net. The UID is what we call it, some people call it a lunch number or their student ID number. I'm going to enter a fake number in. To show you the format. Okay, so that's kind of what it will look like. Actually, there's probably one more digit in the number, but that's what it will look like. And after you've entered the correct student's UID at k12bcs.net, you're going to click the sign in button. And then this Microsoft window is going to pop up. And it's going to want the same exact information you just typed in, the same UID at k12bcs.net. Now, since this is not a valid user ID that I'm entering, I may not get the correct screen on the next screen, but after you've typed in that again, you can click next or go. And see, it's complaining that that's not correct, but what you will see is a place to enter a password, and the password that you want to enter there is the NC Ed Cloud password. And if you do not have that, if the teacher has not sent that home, you need to contact the teacher in order to get the correct password. They should have that for each student. And once you enter the password and click on the next button to finish signing in, it should proceed to load the Ford.com website. And at that point, you can just push the home button to get out of that, and go ahead and click on NC Ed Cloud to launch that and be able to get into sign in there and get into Clever and then access Seesaw or whatever it is that you are needing to get to. Or visit a website that you were previously blocked from in Safari, and that covers signing into Zscaler.
Another issue is we're seeing several different error messages for different apps that basically indicates that the apps are either not the latest version or something has gone wrong with the installation and they need to be deleted and reinstalled. One of the messages is too many HTTP redirects. That one shows up when trying to load Seesaw, but something's wrong with Seesaw. For iReady, we see this app needs an update. For Epic, Epic just kind of immediately closes when it's launched. In all of these cases, You can delete the app by clicking on the home button, finding the icon on the desktop screen, pressing and holding on the icon until a menu pops up, and delete will be one of the options. You select delete, and then you have to confirm the deletion by choosing delete again. The icon will disappear, and then you'll go to the catalog app, launch the catalog app icon, and either search for the app that you need to install or scroll down until you find it, and tap on the button. It could say processing or install. Either one, you click on it and it will show a prompt that says that the request has been received. You need to be patient and wait there for a while for it to install. The processing message may never go away. That's kind of a flaw of the catalog. But after several minutes, if you'll press your home button and go back and look on your desktop for the icon, you should see either it loading or already installed. Occasionally, it will require that you go back in the catalog and request it again a second time. So if you don't see it there after several minutes, I would recommend go ahead and doing that. But after it's installed, you should be able to go back in and things should work. Another issue that I've seen, not quite as common, we had somebody trying to launch the NC Ed Cloud IM app, and it wouldn't open and just said request invalid. For that one, that's not actually an app, that's just a web link. And to resolve that, we basically have to reset all the settings. To reset the settings, you go into the settings app that looks like a gear. When you get into that, then you click on General on the left side. And then at the bottom on the right, near the bottom, it says Reset. You tap on Reset. And at the very top, the option says Reset All Settings. You have to be careful here. You don't want to select Erase All Content and Settings, or that will wipe the iPad completely. But if you click on Reset All Settings, it will clear out a lot of things that may have gotten misconfigured or corrupted, and the iPad will restart. And when it comes back up, you may have to make sure that you're still connected to your network or sign back into your network, and then it should work. Another issue we're seeing in Seesaw, draw and record is not supported by Safari. Anytime you get a message like that something's not supported in Safari for Seesaw, it basically means that the Seesaw app isn't installed and the iPad is opening Seesaw through Safari. So basically, the user just needs to go to the catalog, find the Seesaw app, and install it. And then when they go back into NC Ed Cloud and Clever and choose Seesaw, it should open the app instead of trying to open a browser window for Seesaw. And then the functions will be available within the app.
Okay, one issue that people are having sometimes with their iPads is they do not have any sound. They're in apps and they try to adjust the volume and can't hear anything, and just no sound coming out. It's a pretty simple fix. The first thing to do is to get onto your home screen and press the circle button at the bottom of the iPad a couple of times, hold the home button until you see your icons, and swipe down from the top right hand corner of the screen. If you just put your finger above the screen there and just swipe down, you'll see the Control Center panel open up. And in that Control Center panel there is a bell icon, and right now my mute is on. See, right at the bottom left corner it's a red bell with a slash through it. That means that I have my iPad muted, and of course we don't want that. If you'll go ahead and tap on that, the bell will change to white, and that will turn your volume back on, make it accessible. You'll also notice on the right side there's a little speaker with a meter, white meter that you can adjust up and down. That affects the system level of volume. You want to make sure it's not turned down really low, or your maximum volume would be pretty low, so you want to turn that up pretty high. Then you can just click out of there and you will have sound when you go back into your apps.
For the Zoom issues, one of the main issues I'm seeing during the use of Zoom is that people are experiencing what they're saying is glitchy or robotic or staticky or just repetitive sounds. Sometimes they're uh, very, very loud and unable to be turned down or interacted with in any way. What we have found is causing this is that the computer is doing something in the background that is requiring 100% of the computer's time and resources, and it is not allowing Zoom to process the audio and the video in the right way, and it kind of gets hung up, and the resulting uh, sound that you hear is the glitchy and robotic and staticky audio. In normal circumstances, that will resolve itself. The computer will finish what it is working on in the background, and it will go back to giving its resources to Zoom again. Unfortunately, in the meantime, this means that the user has a really obnoxious, loud sound coming at them, and they want that to go away immediately, and they close out of Zoom. At this point, we have worked to reduce some of the background tasks that the computers are working on to eliminate this as a problem for most people. However, there is no one way to keep this from happening because the computer will work on what it has as its priority. There's no way to keep it from happening. The best way to deal with it immediately is to close Zoom, as people have been doing. You don't need to fully shut down your computer. You can just close down Zoom if the computer allows you to do so. If it is working at 100% capacity, it is not going to allow you to do it immediately, but it will shut down as soon as it gets to that task as a priority. I would suggest making sure the computer is left logged in and powered on for some time, 15 to 20 minutes before school in the morning, to allow the computer to do what it feels it needs to do, and that it doesn't try to do it during your Zoom meeting. Also in the afternoons as well, after your school is done, leave the computer logged in and on for 30 minutes to an hour, or as long as you're comfortable leaving your computer up. That can only benefit the computer and let it finish all the processes that it needs to complete. If you open your Zoom meeting and your computer goes to what we call a blue screen of death, which is a full blue screen with a little sideways frowny face, that's called the blue screen of death. Unfortunately, what it is saying that your computer is not able to do the task that you had asked it to do. In this case, it means that the camera is having a camera driver problem. We can fix this problem, but it will need to be addressed by a technician. You'll need to contact help desk phone or help desk chat and talk with a tech, and we can help you through the process.
I do want to add that the Lenovo camera update was pushed to as many machines as possible, and this is shown in the installation status. So hopefully this has alleviated some of that, but we can install that manually if necessary.
I do believe that has alleviated a lot of the problems. We're seeing much less of that since that push out, and I'm very thankful for that. There are some computers that still just aren't getting it, or it's not installing properly, and we are still having to fix them remotely, but that push has greatly alleviated the issue.
Okay, and that's an important point, I think, is that if they contact the help desk chat, techs can remote in if necessary, correct? Am I correct in that? So I think a lot of parents may not know that, but they can resolve those problems remotely.
That's certainly one of the tools that we have at our disposal. We can remotely access the computer and help with issues more readily.
And when they chat, we may not remote immediately. We add them to a remote list, and then another team gets back to them. So we ask them lots of questions, their computer name, contact information, if it's okay if we remote in. And then we ask them to leave their computers on and logged in and plugged into power. And we get back to them as soon as we can.
with those, what we see occasionally is that only one camera will be working. You'll start Zoom and your camera will be pointed at the ceiling or pointed in some direction that is not your face. And what is causing this is that the camera on the keyboard is the one that is activated either through settings or because there might be another issue with the camera. There are two ways to address that to determine what the problem might be. In Zoom itself, next to the camera icon at the bottom, you will see a small little arrow to the right of that video icon. If you click on that, it should give you the option to switch between the cameras that you have available to you. If that does not allow you to switch between them, what you can do is instead go to your start menu, the Windows menu, find the camera app, right click on the camera app, choose more, and then app settings, and then scroll down to reset and click on reset to reset your camera.
We're talking about switching the camera, whether it's using the camera control functions on your computer or using the camera control functions that are in the browser. So right now it's loading, but in the top right, inside that URL address bar, if I click on that camera, I have the ability to click manage and change my camera and my microphone. And these are very helpful because this is a way where right while you're inside the activity, you don't have to go back out to camera, but you can change it to the one that you need, or you can change the mic. And communications has been the one that we've seen that works really well with mics. So one thing that we're really advising teachers to do is encourage their students. There's two views, one's a gallery and one's speaker. And if they will choose the speaker view, then it takes the images away and they're only focused on the teacher's video or the teacher's image. And it doesn't seem like there's as much issue with the computer itself pulling in all those videos. So we really try to get them to get speaker view. So you would click at the top right, and the speaker view, once you click that, the gallery would go away and you would only see just the person speaking. The same is true with pin video. This has been very helpful. There are 3 dots in the top right of any type of, so your teachers, and when you pin that teacher, you're not seeing all those images, and it seems to help, I think, with the amount of data that's coming in. They're only focused on one image at a time instead of a lot of images. There's a couple other things that are just helpful tips, and we put those up that are how to split the screen or when they're minimizing. But I think like what you're saying, the biggest thing might be with just if it's blacking out or the Zoom's not working properly or the sound's coming in. So I think really those two things with speaker and gallery are the most helpful.
And the split screen may not necessarily be a great idea because that means they're doing something else while they're Zooming, which
That's
of
true.
course causes an issue.
And so we share that a lot because we have teachers working in a Zoom on a document with students. So you're right, Casey, if they are doing that, they might not want to do that. Maybe just watch the teacher through an introduction. And then once they're off the Zoom, then go in and kind of work on that document. It might be a workaround for them. So that's a good point.
I know Google Slides in particular being used as a background or anything that adds more data to that feed. Inserting something like a green screen or something behind the presenter, those are very resource intensive. Google Slides in particular, and the poll feature that I mentioned before, that also has led directly to the black screen. I've seen that on 3 to 4 machines that I can directly trace back to those features. So like I said, I don't know the best path forward, and that's something that is probably just going to be trial and error. But it's something that I think everyone should know. No sound at all on a computer. This is something that we usually test with someone by asking if they can play a YouTube video. If they can have audio playing through a YouTube video, that's not solved by this particular fix. This particular fix is only applies to no audio at all in any application on a computer, and it only affects Lenovo's as well. So what the issue is the computer has no sound whatsoever, no matter what the user does. When this happens, what we suggest that you do is you completely shut down the computer using the power options under the Start or Windows menu. Completely shut the computer down, not just to restart. Once the computer's off, leave it off for, our suggestion is a full minute. Once that full minute has elapsed, power the computer back on, log back in, and sound should be fully re-enabled. Okay, when we first determine that the microphone is not working for a user or isn't recording any sort of sound, the first thing to do is in the bottom right corner of your screen, there's a small speaker icon. Looks like a little speaker with some sound waves coming out of it. If you'll right click on that icon and then choose from that menu Open Sound Settings, that will open up a window that has output and input. On the Test Your Microphone bar, the easiest way to test that is to just speak in a normal tone or to snap or clap in front of your computer. Just make sure that the blue bar is activated and it is registering the sound that you're making. If it is not, what you can do is click on the Device Properties link directly above that bar. And in Device Properties, make sure that the Disable box is not checked. If it is checked, click it again to uncheck it. And then for the volume bar, what works best is not all the way up, not at 100%, but somewhere between 80 and 95% seems to work best.
We have seen a lot of issues where kids are trying to go to Google Classroom and it's just loading. A little bar is going across the top and loads and it never loads. This is usually caused by them not accessing it the correct way. So basically, they open their browser, go to Rapid Identity, IAM, and it opens up to their applications page. They click on the blue G, which is the Google icon or Google Apps icon. It will open up another tab that takes them to their Google Drive. And in the top right corner, there are 9 black dots the teachers call the waffle icon. They click on that and that gives them access to the rest of their Google Apps, including Google Classroom, their Gmail. Depending on where the teacher is sending their link to Zoom, they can open up Classroom or Gmail.
And this might be a good time to mention, Casey, that we have a YouTube channel, a digital learning YouTube channel that has a student playlist, and there's a video that walks them through exactly how to do this, just this process.
Okay, great. Other issues we are seeing with Google Apps is especially older students, some of them have a personal Gmail and they do log into Google Chrome with that personal account. This causes issues, lots of issues, not just with Google Classroom. So if they will go up to the top right corner, the circle with their initial in it or their picture, and click on that, it'll show which account they're in. If they're having some trouble with Google Classroom and with like YouTube, it'll cause problems with YouTube as well. They can check and see if they're in the BCS account as opposed to a personal account. We don't want them logged into Google Chrome at all. Originally, I think when they click on the Google Apps icon, it logs them into their BCS account. But if they are logged in with a personal account, it definitely is going to cause issues. They're not going to be able to get to their YouTube videos that they're supposed to get to, and they're not going to be able to get to their classroom. So we just tell them to click that, click sign out, close Chrome, reopen it, and go back in the correct way. I can mention one other thing that the teachers do a lot, tell them to troubleshoot Chrome issues or Google App issues, is to clear the browser history. I do settings, more tools, and then clear browser history. I usually have them change the down arrow where it says all time. It usually pops up last hour. So I have them change the down arrow to all time and then click clear data. And depending on how much data they have, it takes a few seconds. I would like to add something while we're talking about Google Chrome. We do have Microsoft Edge.
Yes. Yes, please.
They do not like to try anything different. However, it is a great option if they're having trouble with their Google Chrome, switch over to Microsoft Edge to just see if it's a Chrome issue. If it works in Microsoft Edge and it doesn't work in Chrome, then it would point to an issue that Chrome needs to be reset, fixed, whatever.
So this is Edge, and I do agree. I think we just use Chrome all the time, but one of the big features of this is that there is the read aloud. So we do show that a lot for parents and for other students, that this has a read aloud function built into it. So Chrome is a wonderful tool and good.
Well, the new Edge is very, very similar and bordering on identical to Chrome. The new version of Edge. Some people still have the old version of Edge still installed, and it is lacking bookmarks. It's lacking some other immediately available features that they are used to in Chrome. It really just boils down to habit. Edge has really stepped up the game and made it a very usable browser. It's much faster. It's much less resource intensive. And just very briefly, I want to touch on the fact that some of these student computers are still running 4 gigs of RAM, and Google Chrome is a notorious resource hog and takes up a lot of memory on these computers. So when you're running your operating system and you're running Chrome and you might have a few tabs open, you might have a Word document open, and then you try to open your Zoom, you're going to run into a lot of issues that will sometimes result in a blue screen of death because the computer has just run out of memory. It just doesn't have enough resources to be able to run all those applications. And switching over to Edge can help that in a small respect.